Hey everyone, this is Coach Phoenix.
And I'm Coach Gina.
And this is Toast with the Coaches.
Cheers. Thank you all for joining us again for another episode, and welcome to Perspective, the show previously known as Cheers. We decided to rename our show Perspective because that is what we're here to do, is give the perspective of all of our different guests and different walks of life, different people, different experiences. So we're so happy that you're joining us this week.
Thank you again for joining us. This is episode 2. We're really excited because we have a super dope guest. But till we get to that, again, I'm Coach Phoenix, owner and CEO of Role Model Life Coaching LLC, where we do transitioning coaching.
And again, I am Gina Erickson. I am the founder of Clear Focus Coaching. We focus primarily on empowering new business owners, new ventures, and also females who are going through any kind of transition, whether it's career, life, or transitioning into being working moms, whatever that new space is, we're there to support you.
So now I want to raise a toast. I want to raise a toast to an engineer by trade, Harvard business grad, entrepreneur, recent former venture capitalist partner, but most importantly, a great mother and an awesome wife, Sonia Nagar. Cheers!
Cheers!
Thanks, guys.
I love that.
You have drinking water over there.
I'm not gonna lie, I've also got water in my fancy Minneapolis cup here.
I guess I missed the memo. I thought it was a happy hour.
Yeah, I know. Usually I would be game to partake. A lot of work to do today.
No, I get it. I guess I have work to do as well. So Sonia, last week, Gina, if you remember, on our first episode, we did a toast to the two of us because we started out letting everyone know exactly who we are. But I promised the viewers that it would be more of us. And today we have an awesome guest. Here she is. Do you know where that quote, that saying came from? Are you a theater Broadway fan?
I do like Broadway. Yeah, although I don't know if I'm a super fan. So
Okay. Have you seen Hamilton? That's where that quote came from.
Yeah, I have seen Hamilton.
Yeah. That's mine and Gina's favorite Broadway show. So we have that in common. And now I guess we have another fan. What's your favorite Broadway show?
It's a good question. I mean, I actually think Hamilton was quite good.
Right?
That's pretty high up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotta be.
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, I mean, I like the cheesy old school ones like Grease, the ones that everybody knows.
Yes. Classic.
Kind of like memorize the plot line. Yeah.
Definitely. See, I always say you could tell a person by their favorite Broadway show. So you like Grease, I see you're old school classic type of woman.
Old school classic, yeah. And not that creative, I guess. I guess that's probably the one that everybody knows. But, yeah.
No, I think the one that everyone either goes for, I would say, is probably either The Lion King or Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera is like the Broadway show, right? That's what you think of.
Classic. I feel like Phantom of the Opera is so down. Like, I like a happy ending.
Yeah.
Where the good guys win.
It's fair.
So,
yeah, no, I was going to ask, other than checking out your favorite Broadway shows in your free time, you have done a bunch of amazing things, from, starting out as an engineer at General Motors. That's amazing. Going to Harvard, starting your own company. Like you have quite the history of doing some incredible things. So we would like to talk about that. And first, if you want to start by maybe giving us a little background about where you grew up and, kind of how that experience was growing up and how that brought you to Harvard.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Midwest. My parents were immigrants. So they immigrated in the 70s from India and they landed in Detroit, Michigan, which is where my dad's older brother was. Yeah, go Detroit. And then ended up for a job, my dad moved our family to Cleveland. So I grew up from when I was 3 till when I was 17 in a small town called Bay Village, Ohio, suburb of Cleveland. And, looking back on it, I think about this a lot now that I'm a mom. I think about what were the experiences that made me better or made me who I am. And I think one of the things that helped me out a lot was I was different when I was in Ohio, like Bay Village, Ohio was a very white Bible Belt, community, very Christian.
When you say different, I was gonna say, were you in small town Ohio?
Yeah,
no way.
No way.
Like the lone brown. My family was like the only Hindu Indian family in that community, and so I just grew up. I was used to being different, and so and I feel like that's helped me because I've never, if there wasn't a role model that looked like me necessarily, like I never thought that was a horrible thing because I was like, well, of course I'm the first fill in the blank, of course I'm the only woman in the room, or the only, because I was used to being different. So that's probably one of my key takeaways from my childhood. That, and, I was blessed. My parents had a very heavy emphasis on education. And so I was a product of, my mom was a Tiger mom. And it's funny, my dad is a smart guy and has been successful in business. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, you must be a product of your dad. The reality is my mom put in the hours with me. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My public school education in Bay Village, Ohio was pretty crappy. However, my mom supplemented that by putting in a ton of extra hours with me, like Tiger momming me, having me copy words from the dictionary and doing all these other crazy things rather than watching TV or before I could go outside and play with my friends. And I think that also set a really high bar for me on like a great foundation from an education perspective.
So Sonia, really quickly, I want to go back. You mentioned understanding your difference and looking at it and taking it in a optimistic and perspective, saying, you know what, I'm different. So when you carry that throughout your life, you was like, of course I'm the first, like this is natural. But going back to that and making that correlation between your mother being at home and you saying she was that push. Do you think who was that influence? That was it anybody that taught you that or sat you down and was like, hey, of course you're different, or was that something that you just, based on your experience, you observed yourself and came to that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point in grade school, any person of color has that moment when you reach for a crayon and somebody's like, no, that's not, you don't use the same crayon as me to color in your face. Like, you're like, oh, I need the brown crayon for my melatonin level. So like the differences, I do think, I didn't realize I was probably different until like maybe kindergarten, first grade is when that starts to happen. But then the high expectations coming from my mom, like it was always, you're different because you're going to be the best. I will say, she was like, you're going to be the smartest. Like, oh, those other kids are getting A's. You're going to be an A+ student. You're the best. And that's why you're different. And I think that was an important message to hear. Because, it's hard when you're a different kid. I'm not going to say that I didn't get teased or bullied a little bit in like my younger adolescent years. But it was always like, high school is not the apex of your existence. Like you're going on to bigger and better things. So like rise above it because you're different, but it's different is good.
But how were you in high school? Was you like a nerd? Was you a cool girl?
Nerd.
For real?
Oh yeah. I mean, I loved it though. I mean, I don't think I even realized that I was so nerdy, but I love learning. Which is, I mean, probably the best gift my parents ever gave me was that I was self-taught. And I mean, it's funny, like I think back about this now, and somebody else was asking me, because I was a little bit of like a rebel nerd. So I still remember in high school.
A rebel nerd, define.
Yeah, so like in high school.
That's a new term. You need to coin that.
Calculus teacher who was like, I would always get in trouble in the class because it moved pretty slowly. And so I would talk to my friends or, and I was getting in trouble. And so one day she kind of berated me in class. And I remember being like, who is this lady? And so I went home over the weekend and I did the next 5 chapters of the calculus book and basically went in, handed it to her in a binder on Monday and said, I want to audit the class. I don't want to learn.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like a rebel nerd. That's when I say rebel nerd, it was like, and I'm like, where did I get that from? I don't know. I think it was part of just being comfortable being different at some point, and then the high expectation that came externally to say like, you're gonna be different, but you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. Sorry, Gina, you want to go ahead? You want to?
Yeah, I know. I was just interested because it sounds like, there's kind of 2 different ways that can go. It's either, such high expectations that it's stressful and kids are depressed and they're like, oh, there's so much on me. But you took it and you were like, no, I'm going to excel with this. And I'm not saying that you didn't have those moments of like, this is so much pressure and stress, because I'm sure that you probably did. But, being able to take that and be like, you know what? No, I'm just going to show up and just be amazing. And then no one can say anything about it, because I'm just going to do the next 5 chapters. And now what? Like, what do you say to that?
I think about that a lot, that like there are definitely different ways it can go, because everybody knows that kid who was like sheltered and pushed, and it was external. The second they're on their own in college, they implode. And so that piece I have 2 young kids right now. So I think about this all the time. It's like, yes, I can push them to be the best they can be and set those high expectations, but there's got to be something that, comes from within for them to take it and run with it. Otherwise there's only so much you can do externally.
Yeah. So what was that thing for you? What was it that helped you to kind of internalize those principles and keep you pushing forward to be your best self for you?
Yeah, I think athletes must have this too. Like anybody who competes in a sport at a high level, where yes, maybe your parent was the one coaching you when you're younger, but there's something, I think there has to be a little bit of positive feedback. So I was good at school. I was, doing really well. And then there was something about self-teaching that just got me hooked. Like I loved reading. So there has to be some positive reinforcement at some point, I think, to keep you going.
Nice. So what kept you going? So from high school, you was this rebel nerd. Then you went to college. I think you, looking at your, like researching you went to Michigan. I'm a Michigan fan. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a Michigan native. I was born and raised there, so.
Look at the connection.
Yeah, near and dear to your heart. I like that.
Hold on. So Gina, you're a Michigan native, but I know that state pulls 2 sides. So you're a Michigan State fan, or are you Go Blue as well?
I don't know if I ever picked a side, because I was a hockey fan.
You need to pick a side today. What side are you going to pick today?
I would probably pick blue, yeah.
Yeah, Go Blue.
Yeah, Go Blue.
And that because of the peer pressure. So you went to Michigan State after high school.
So I went to University of Michigan.
Or sorry, Michigan. Wow, don't get that wrong.
Yeah. Edit that.
Yeah, and I feel like some of that inner drive continued. Like I was never content to be a part of an organization. I always wanted to run it. And so if you look at like some of the things that I did, and I don't even think this is online anywhere, but like I was an officer in my sorority. I was an officer at the Society of Women Engineers. I organized this student conference around.
What sorority?
Yeah, I was a tryout. Phoenix, I know you can do some tryouts.
Shout out to the tryout.
Yeah.
The Society of Women Engineers, is that SWEET? The SWEET?
SWE.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I know my sister went to Kettering. She's an electrical engineer. So yeah, she was. She wasn't president or head of it or anything, but yeah, she was part of the Society of Women Engineers as well, which is a wonderful society. I think it's really great that they're like supporting and promoting women in that field.
100%. I mean, it was one of those. It kind of was a great model for me to what a great women's organization should look like, because it was so good that the men wanted to be in it, and they were allowed. And like, so every meeting, there was at least a handful, like 5 or 6 dudes hanging out, because the resources were so good. So it was a great organization. Yeah. So I feel like that was my college life. I studied mechanical engineering, and I think because I was self-taught, like it was the curriculum wasn't hard for me. It was kind of continued to self-teach, and maybe didn't go to class as much as I should have, but but in engineering, so much of your grade is based on your exam scores that, like, for me, that was like a great way to free up a lot of my time.
Free up your time.
And then I did a bunch of organizations and extracurriculars where, I wasn't content to be in the background. I wanted to run things.
So you said free up your time to do what? So, okay, you was this brilliant student that got good grades as an engineer student, but then on your free time, what type of social person was Sonia? Did you party?
I went out a lot.
Early, right? You did?
No, I definitely went out a lot.
So what happened to that rebel nerd? Do you turn into a rebel social as well? Like,
yeah, I feel like I was always a nerd who liked people. So I was always a social nerd. It was like I liked I could get really into idea or learning something and like go in a hole and you wouldn't see me for a couple of days, but then I would come out and I'd be like, let's go to the bar, guys. I'm ready to go have fun. So
amazing.
yeah.
I love that it starts out as the rebel nerd, and then you just start adding those building blocks of personality onto it. It's like you start out there, and then you have like more of the social nerd kind of coming in a little bit more, and it just keeps building. You know, it's still part of your core, but that you just expanded more of that in college.
Yeah, and I mean, in engineering, everybody's a nerd, so it's like, you know, it's just on the more social side of the nerd spectrum.
Oh wow! So holistically, you was just the ish, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you were there for how many years?
4 years. And then I graduated, and my first job, well, I did internships, but my first real job was at General Motors in their advanced engineering group. So I worked on the software controller that sits on your powertrain, and more specifically focused on transmissions. So it was fun. I mean, it was definitely, but it was another place where I was an other, meaning there are not a lot of women
Boys Club
in General Motors, and in the advanced engineering group, that problem is even more exacerbated because most of the people in that group go on to get masters and PhDs. And so once you start to say like, okay, how many women engineers are there? And then how many women get their masters? Then how many get their PhD? Like you get narrow and narrower real fast. But again, like it didn't bother me because I had been an other for so long that that didn't really faze me. And I always saw it one of two ways. It was like, one, yes, there are some people where you'll have a bigger hurdle up front because they may have a preconceived notion about what you can or can't do. And that gave me a little bit of chip on my shoulder to prove them wrong. But the other thing is nobody could forget me. Like I was definitely memorable. It was like nobody forgot my name or was like, who's that? It was like, oh yeah, there's only one Indian girl in that whole department. So not hard to confuse me with people.
What you think stuck out the most about you during that time, being in that boys club, being a woman and being a minority?
You know, I actually think it was a great confidence builder for me to have early in my career. I had a great boss. I had a really great boss who supported me, promoted me, had high expectations for me. And so, in fact, I mean, he's the one who wrote my recommendation for Harvard Business School.
Nice.
And I think that makes a big difference. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say this. I could have gone a totally different path if I didn't have the right people around me. And I like to think I would have always found my way back, but it could have taken me longer, or I could have gone on more detours. But I had a great boss who supported me. And that's probably my biggest like takeaway I had from that was like great bosses build people up.
Yeah, that 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely wanted to. So I heard that, and I wanted to like touch on that a little bit, Sonia. So that's support circle, and in my mind, and as a coach, I try to push that. One of my specialties is focused on individuals from the age of 14 to 24, and one of the things I try to emphasize is starting to create your own your support circle. And what did that look like? Warren Buffett. I was reading an article, and Warren Buffett said that your friends should be someone that's on your level or doing better than you. And what do that mean? That doesn't mean that making more money than you. I mean, if I'm a go-getter and I'm a consultant and I have a friend that's a teacher, yeah, we don't make the same amount of money, but my teacher friends say, hey, I'm going to be a superintendent one day. And that's their goal. We're on the same level mentally. And that's, you need to support, you need to build yourself around those individuals because they're going to guide you into being an A student all the time. And it sounds like that's exactly what your boss did, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, he had good expectations, although I'll go back to saying like my family has been an amazing support as well. So within my family, because, you know, we talked a little bit about this Phoenix, how you have to see it to be it. And unless you see people like, the reason why I even knew that I could apply to Harvard Business School and could set my sights high was I had two older cousins who were in Michigan, who'd gone to Michigan 4 years before me and 8 years before me. And they had both gone on to do Ivy League schools for grad school. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I see the path. They went to Michigan, they studied engineering just like me. And they did, you know, they went on to do like really big name Ivy League schools for grad school.
That's the standard.
I do wonder, like, okay, if I hadn't had that, would I have ever thought like, oh, I should apply to Harvard? But because I'd seen that path, that expectation was always in my mind. I was like, of course I'm going to go to some amazing grad school.
That's crazy. Yeah. So Gina, I have a question for you. I want your perspective on this. Being a life coach, what do you say to a person that comes from a situation like mine, where I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and Sonia, please chime in as well. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I don't have that parent. I don't have that parent or that elder cousin that did anything, and I want to be the first generational college grad, and I want to go to Harvard. What should I do, Gina? Like, how do I start building that support circle?
I think, I mean, so what I'm hearing throughout this conversation, a lot of is, you know, who do you know? Who do you know that knows someone that knows someone, you know, and figuring out what opportunities you have in front of you and taking advantage of them, regardless of how large or how small they are. If you can make a positive step forward, you're one step closer to that goal. So I think everybody has, you know, whether it's the guy that you met at the supermarket or the librarian of the library that you go to frequently, or books that you can read, or, I mean, for goodness sakes, the internet. I feel like there's always some place you can go to try to help yourself or ask for help. And being able to ask for help too, I think is huge, because sometimes people don't have people in their lives being like, yes, go to Harvard, like push, you know, or to encourage them to do that. And so sometimes I think it's you, like, you become your support systems to say, yes, I can do this. I know I can do this, and building yourself up. So,
Gina, you bring up a really good point though. So, because when I was applying, like, so I had cousins who'd gone to Ivy League schools, and I didn't have anybody who'd gone to Harvard before. And so I had people who applied, but nobody gotten in. And so
Nice.
As I was figuring it out, one of the things I did was I found someone who knew somebody who had gotten into Harvard, and I talked to them about it. And then there's also a really great book that I read on, because the application process is twofold. You have an interview and you have essays, and then there's like everything you've done in your life, like your raw material. And I'm like, I know I have good raw material, but still doing the right thing in the essays and in your interview process is important. So I talked to people, anybody who would talk to me that I could get to, I talked to about like, how, you know, tell me about Harvard. How did you apply? You know, what did the application process look like? What should I know? And then the book is on Amazon. It's like 10 essays that got, or 100 essays that got into Harvard, I think it's called.
Nice.
Literally, it's just.
Make sure y'all write that down if y'all plan on going to Ivy League school or Harvard.
That was hands down the best book that I could have read, because seeing the practical examples of people's essays and what they wrote to get into Harvard, I was like, oh, that's not even that good. I have a better story. And so, but until you know, I mean, I thought it, and I was also surprised at how like frilly the essays were. Like the essays were very matter of fact, which surprised me. I thought I was going to have to write some, you know, Nobel laureate, like prose that was beautiful. It could live on in an English book. And no, essays are very straightforward.
They were ready to publish immediately.
Yeah, so read that if you're applying to Harvard Business School or even Harvard undergrad. Like I suggest that you buy that book. It was like a $10 book. So.
That is an awesome recommendation. And yeah, going in and just being like, okay, where do I want to be? And then kind of reverse engineering that, right? And saying, okay, I want to be here. What are the steps I can take before getting here to prepare myself? Like, how do I get there? And who can I reach out to, and who can I talk to? And I think it's surprising, even Phoenix and I are discovering through this process of starting up our show, that a lot of people say yes. You just have to ask. You know, a lot of people are like willing to help, and there's a lot of good people out there. So you have to just reach out and you ask. Like, people are sometimes really wonderful.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say good job, both of y'all, answering that question, because basically what I got out of it is, if you want to get here and your current situation is here, like Gina, I heard the coaching in you, identify those gaps. And once you identify those gaps, you know exactly what actions you need to take, but you just need to declare it and then go from there.
Phoenix, you are so good at summarizing ideas.
Appreciate that.
I love it.
So Sonia, so you in Harvard, you got accepted at Harvard.
Yeah.
What's that experience like, Harvard? Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow, Harvard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was an amazing experience, because everybody that was, to your point on like having a friend group or being around people that are all aspiring to do big things, it was like a pre-selected group of people that were curated. Everybody was trying to do big things, and everybody had really interesting life stories. And so it was such an inspirational place to be. And then I did my summer internship at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street because I kind of felt like a lot of the smartest people I knew at the school had done finance jobs beforehand on Wall Street, and I was good at math, and so thought that might be my calling.
So why not? I'll just go work on Wall Street.
Yeah. So
sorry, Sonia, I don't want to. But I think the viewers want to hear this, right? So you went to Harvard.
Yeah.
And I just want them to capture the idea of what you just said and understanding the difference between going to Harvard and going to any other school. So you went to Harvard, right? And you said the experience of Harvard was like you were around these people that everybody's go-getters, everybody's like have these bright ideas, and it was motivating. But you went to Michigan as well for undergrad, and Michigan is a top 20, top 10 school any given year, and that's a really good school as well. But what was the difference between going to like a sub-Ivy or a really good school that's not an Ivy League and going to Harvard? I just wanted you to capture that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's just another level of ambition. It's part of it.
And it's definitely the cream of the crop. Like it's
cream
evident.
Of the crop. Yeah, cream of the crop. And it's like, it was much smaller too. Like Michigan is huge. Yeah. And so Michigan, some of the smartest people I know are still from the University of Michigan, but Harvard like took the cream of the crop from Michigan and put them in a classroom together. And I mean, so much what I've learned is you can learn a lot from textbooks and self-teaching, but a lot of times people can be a shortcut. Like I learned more when I thought maybe I want to do investment banking. I learned more by going to coffee with 5 people who'd worked in investment banking than I could have by reading 100 books or 100 online essays.
Wow.
What a shortcut. Because they take, you know, a bunch of information and they're usually able to compress it into a couple of the most salient points.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an excellent point. One of the quotes that has followed me kind of throughout my life is ask the expert. You know, find someone who knows everything about this again and just ask them.
Down. That's a good one. You know,
just ask the expert. You want to start your own business? Ask someone who's done it successfully. I mean, it's one of the reasons we have you on the show. You know, so we're here to ask the expert because, like you said, there's a lot that I think we ourselves and also our viewers are gleaning from your experience of having gone through this and summarizing that in a short period of time to say, this is kind of what I did or how I did it, and boiling that down.
So after your experience at Goldman Sachs, you did the internship because
I did the internship and I worked on the IPO team for a company called Bill Me Later that ended up not going public. They took a big investment from Amazon, and in the course of doing
what IPO? Viewers might not know what that is.
Oh, an initial public offering. So it's when a private company goes public and gets listed in the stock market. And so it's a big milestone for a company. Founders usually take home a lot of cash from that event. Lots of people make money when companies go public.
Got it.
And I realized that I felt like I was sitting on the wrong side of the table as I was talking to the founders, because it felt like they built something versus the bankers are facilitating a transaction. They're moving money around. And so I was like, do I want to be moving money around? Like, yes, there's a lot of money made on Wall Street, but it wasn't my passion. And so when I went back to business school, I was like, okay, I want to see if I can start something. But the truth is I didn't really have an idea that was good. Like I had a lot of ideas, but none of them were like, oh, I want to spend anytime you start a company and you want it to be your main thing, it can take 5 years to build it up. Like it can take a long time. And so none of my ideas felt like that good or that I was that passionate about them. And then I was also like, I got to make some money because I had student debt. And so, so I took a job at Amazon. So I was excited about Amazon because I got to know them summer of 2007. This was right when they were launching Amazon Prime. And I still remember my parents were like, you went to Harvard. Why are you going to go work for a bookseller?
I worked for Amazon as well. So I know that life. I'm about that Amazon life too, Sonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Amazon. Ooh, they were amazing. I mean, when I joined Amazon in 2008, they were mostly books and media, and they were just launching soft lines. They were just launching a bunch of new categories. So it's a really exciting time. The stock was at like 80. I think it's at like 2,000 or 3,000 or something now.
Yeah.
So
I hope you kept your Amazon stock. I hope you kept that.
I did. I'm holding on.
Oh, whoa.
I'm a long-term hold. It's been like my best investment to date has been Amazon stock, working at Amazon in 2008. Amazon
Nice.
stock.
What did you do at Amazon?
So I was a product manager
Nice.
in the clothing category. So they were just relaunching the clothing category. And because they have primarily been selling books and electronics beforehand, if you think about apparel, it's totally different. Like you've got seasons, you've got sales, you've got more SKU variations because you've got sizes and colors, and the imaging needs to be different. So it was a cool place to learn. But then I got married and my husband was in New York. And so he was doing his MBA, and I knew I wanted to start a company when I was leaving Amazon. But again, I didn't have some amazing idea. And I also was worried about living in New York without any income. So, I did consulting for a year right after I moved to New York. My husband and I got married. And then when he finished school and started working was when I left to start my startup that was called Pickie. That was in the mobile shopping space back in 2011.
Nice. So where did that idea come from? So you skipped a big portion. So you went from Amazon, you knowing that, hey, I got married, going to New York, I need to make money. So what company do you consult for? And then at one point did you find that idea to go into the Pickie?
Yeah, so I consulted for a company called Booz and Company.
Okay.
In town. And I was in their media. I did a little bit of retail work, but mostly their media and telecom practice. And I liked it. It was actually good. I mean, I learned a lot. I think I got to be a much better presenter from that experience, because in consulting, and you may remember this piece, it's like when you're in front of a client, you got to be polished and good and have all of your ideas super concise. And when you're making the presentation materials, like you got to be really good at communicating things on paper. So I learned a ton in that year. But I never, I always knew that I wanted to do something. I never thought I wanted to be a career consultant. And so I had some great open conversations with the partner who led the practice that I was in. And he was supportive of me going on sabbatical, which was an amazing way to have like a kid gloves way of starting a company. I didn't have to go to no income. I was able to keep my health insurance benefits and I think 25% of my salary.
Again, that
That's
network,
amazing.
right? That support circle again.
Yeah.
That support circle, people that believe in you. Wow.
People that believe in me. And he was basically like, and I remember because 6 months after trying to start something, I knew that was still what I wanted to do, but I didn't have anything that was successfully working yet. And so I went back and I was like, okay, I know I'm up, and I'm at that point where we said I needed to decide to come back, otherwise sabbatical ends. And I'm like, I guess sabbatical's ending because I'm not ready to come back. And he was like, you know what? Let's give you another couple months, because he was like,
wow.
Amazing.
Like, like, on the off chance you decide to come back, it is better for us and you think about it. And now I think about this as somebody who's hired a bunch of people. It takes so long to train people.
It's so expensive and so long.
Coach them and mentor them, onboard them. And so if you know somebody's good, it's like 3 months at 25%. I mean, it was like pennies for them. If I'm honest, I mean, I was a senior associate or something, junior. So it was fairly cheap, but it meant a lot to me, and meant that if I was going to go back to consulting, I would for sure go back to them, because
exactly. And if you would go back to them, not only would you just go back to them, but you would just give them your all because you were so appreciative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motivation matters a lot when you're managing people. So
that's a good tidbit for the viewers. Write that down as a leader.
And I think too, the way that the company treated you in that space probably also encouraged you to recommend other people to that company too, send more smart people that way. Is that something that you feel too, that you had that positive experience, or were like, this company's great?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is though, I feel like consulting is a really tough life. And my husband's a consultant. So I say this, like, I actually personally would not want to go back to consulting.
Same here. I second that motion.
No. Well, so most people, when they're asking me, like, should I do consulting? I ask a bunch of questions. I think if you are more financially oriented, great money.
Great money.
Definitely great money. If you're cool with travel and you like travel, like great lifestyle, get to travel very well. But if you're looking for happiness, I feel like there are other ways to go.
Yeah. I think, especially since you were married at that time too, for someone who's married and or has children and kind of has more ties to their community or family where they're at, that traveling piece can become exhausting fairly quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Now it's a little bit of a non-starter. You have to travel that much.
So Pickie.
So yeah, so Pickie was in the mobile shopping space.
The
idea was,
yeah, there we go.
yeah, the idea was basically that back in 2011, 2010, there were tons of social networks that had cropped up. Pinterest was one of the newest at that time, but Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, and in these social networks, you could see who people were following. And so based on that, it was like, okay, there's all this data out there based on who people are following and what products people are mentioning. Could we scrape that information and use that data to create a better shopping experience? Was like the simple view of it. So it's like a personalized shopping catalog, focused on the iPad. And there were tons of ups and downs. I mean, I think so one of the things we did to jumpstart, and I had two co-founders, was we did an accelerator program called Techstars, which is a great way to get started when you don't know anybody. And there are tons of these accelerators now all over. They usually will accept 5 to 10 companies. They give you $100,000, which is like, real money that you can go do something with. And they probably more importantly are making a bunch of introductions for you. So the people who run these accelerators are typically very well connected. People who know people with money, people who know people in industry who want to help founders. And so you have a 10 to 12 week program where you work on your idea and you're with other companies. So that's great from a peer cohort perspective. To your point, Phoenix, you get to know other people who have aspirations that are similar to yours.
Building that circle.
Building your circle.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan. I mean, I think accelerators, especially for me as somebody who, while I gone to Harvard, I will say, like, I didn't know anything about, because I thought, coming from middle America, working at General Motors, working in a family where everybody's kind of worked for big companies or in and around big companies, that the path to success was to work your way up to be the CEO. I had no idea what.
Hold on, powerful. Say that again. Say that again. That's powerful.
Yeah. I thought that you had to climb the ladder in a big company and work your way up to be CEO. I didn't realize that there were 50 different paths you could take to make money and be successful. Like, my idea of success was big corporate success.
That's my biggest takeaway so far. Good, man. That's my biggest takeaway. Cheers to that. Can I make a toast?
Yes, 100%. For sure. Cheers. Yeah. And I'm hearing it's rude not to drink after you cheers. So going back to a little bit of this theme that has followed you throughout your life too, of saying, I'm the first. It kind of sounds like you also took that into this arena as well, saying like, I grew up in this environment where this is your path of CEO and that's how you climb the ladder. And you're like, no, I'm going to go be the first and start my own thing. I'm going to go be the first and just like trailblaze.
Yeah. And hold on 1 second, because my 4-year-old is going to make a cameo.
That's funny. My 4-year-old was here as well. Come here, Adrian.
Hello.
I guess today's guest day.
Oh my gosh, the shark shirt.
Hello.
This is the reality. No matter how
look at the other princess.
You've gotten, your kids will tell you it straight, which is that you're not a big deal, right?
I know, baby.
So if you're gonna be in here, you can't watch the iPad, or you can be in here quietly. Okay.
The cuteness level of this episode just went up by like 500%. There's only 2 kids, but 500%.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I've realized if I don't acknowledge her and give her her moment to shine, then she'll be in here the whole time. She'll be in here 10 more times. But if I just, give her a little love.
Same here.
So happy. Now she's gonna watch this with you, and she's gonna be so happy.
Thanks for making that okay. So I was able to, because she was peeking in here like, Daddy, I want to say hello.
What's going on? Of course.
That's part of life. That's part of who you are. And I think that should be, Phoenix, it should be okay for everybody, to say like, this is my family. This is part of who I am. This is who supports me. This is why I'm where I'm at.
Exactly. And this is the new normal now, especially for everybody working at home, right? That's why my daughter's in her pajamas. Don't judge me. Your daughter and your son is in their pajamas as well, viewers. Don't say.
I would be too if I wasn't doing this interview. I'm not going to lie.
I have pajamas pants on. I just have a blazer up top.
So that
You
was,
have to
yeah.
repeat your question because I got sidetracked by the 4-year-old.
Oh, I was just saying you were trailblazing. You were saying I'm going to be the
being
first
the first.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways, I feel like my family didn't totally get it because they are more conservative by far than I am. On like you have your 9-to-5 job, and that's just the path that they took. And so I think there was definitely some apprehension there around financial security and like, it's scary to go start your own thing. The thing that I realized though was I had done a lot of check the box. Like I worked for General Motors and then did Harvard Business School and then worked at Amazon. And so it's like check, checking some more stereotypical boxes, which did give me the freedom. Maybe it took me a little bit longer than some people are starting companies in their 20s. But by the time I got to it, I felt like I had enough confidence and enough financial freedom to do it. And I also knew that if it didn't work out, I could go get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
There would always be a job job working for somebody else out there, but I could do this for me and pursue something that would make me way more happy.
Yeah, you were invested in yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I did want to go back to how did you come up with the idea of Pickie? I know you said during that time with Pinterest and you said, hey, okay, this is a great opportunity to scrape that data and create this company. But where do you find your business partners, and at what time did y'all come together and be like, you know what, this is it? Because you kept emphasizing throughout your career, you kept saying, I know I want to start my own business, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. What moment you knew like, okay, these are the partners that I want to partner with, and this is the idea, let's get it.
Yeah. So the decision to jump in some ways came ahead of the idea. What I realized was while I was spending, because consulting is an intense lifestyle. You're traveling Monday through Thursday, you're working 11, 12-hour days. And so as long as I was doing that, I wouldn't even have the space to figure out what I could go build or what I could go do. So sabbatical was really important for giving me the space. There was, and I have to give credit where credit is due, there was this, even before an accelerator. So accelerators usually require you to have a team and an idea. Before that, there was this group called Founder Labs that this woman named Shirose Charania had started. She's the organizer behind Women 2.0, which was like a San Francisco Bay Area movement that was all about getting more women in tech and empowering women. And she created this group where basically it was called Founder Labs. You didn't pay anything. You just go once a week, get together with other people who are interested in starting a company. And it was like, she was committed to diversity, not in a, I'm going to fill a quota way, but more in a, I'm going to make sure I have a really diverse pipeline and make sure that I'm going to accept 20 people that come from all different walks of life and all different backgrounds. So she almost did like a mini curated thing there. And through that, I met one of my co-founders, and then we recruited his friend to join us.
See, that's
like
what I wanted to get out of you.
Like another person,
Exactly.
it's all about finding like-minded people.
Support circle. You still building that support circle. So everywhere you went, you found those individuals that you say, you know what, I could connect with, and that's on the same level as me, and we could build together. Wow.
Yeah, just kind of meeting people. And I've realized like in life, so people talk about in tech, PayPal was one of the earliest huge success stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
No, we lost her.
We lost her.
Hi guys, sorry about that.
It's all good.
The story is basically eBay acquired PayPal, all that entire founding team, that company had a really strong culture, and all of those people stayed friends. And then there's been a lot of research where they have tracked over the last 20 years what those team members have gone on to do, and they call them the PayPal Mafia because they've all supported each other and catapulted each other into crazy success stories. So like Elon Musk is a PayPal Mafia. And there's like there's like dozens of examples of people who've been crazy. They've started crazy companies that are even more successful than PayPal, or become legendary venture capitalists, but they created this mafia. And so I think about that a lot. It's like, I think you have to always be recruiting, always building your team, and you're always building your mafia. But I tell young people, it's like, I wish earlier I had thought about this. It's like, careers are so long. And I mean, I'm seeing this today, like 15 years later, 10 years after I started my first company, I'm, heading out to start my next company. And a lot of the people and relationships that I've built over the last 10, 15 years, I'm talking to all those same people again. And it's kind of crazy that careers are just so long. You don't know how you're going to see people or run into them again. But when you meet really good people, you keep them close.
Yeah.
That's a good tidbit, man. You're just dropping a whole bunch of nuggets on the viewers today. I mean, you should just write a book. You can collect all of these jewels that you're providing today, and really become successful just off this interview. So thank you again for joining us. So just going back to your story. So then you started Pickie. You met your partners, had a successful business, and then what happened?
Well, I mean, I think parts of it were super successful, then other parts weren't. So one of the things you had mentioned you might want me to talk about was, how did I decide to sell the company?
Yes.
And the truth was, the company wasn't working. So we had money in the bank, we're building things, but we kind of knew we were going to have to change what we were doing, because we weren't making money, and we were going to have to go out and raise more money, and we didn't have enough users necessarily to go do that. Like, we hadn't figured everything out. And so it's a little bit of a crazy story, but we had one of our investors that introduced us to Facebook. I know, one of our investors that introduced us to Facebook.
Wow.
And they were like, and after, I thought it was one of those, my investors were always introducing me to people. 10% of the times the meetings would lead to something. 90% of the times it would be like a get to know you chat. And you're like, okay, I don't know what this is going to be useful for.
Put this in my pocket, but I might need
my pocket. But,
exactly.
Facebook, they're interesting. So lo and behold, maybe 3 or 4 weeks after I met with them, they were interested in building out their team in New York on the product and technology side. We were building in the mobile space. Mobile in 2013, 14 was still like hot. It was hard to find teams that were really obsessive about building mobile products. And so they were interested in talking to us about an acquisition. That it ended up imploding, and I learned a lot of lessons through that. But in that process, it was like, okay, my team and I had some real big heart-to-hearts. We're like, okay, we can keep building, but we would have to be building something totally different. And the truth is, we had all come together around this initial idea, but we have very different interests on what we would want to go build going forward. And so it was like, listen, given, there was no way to keep the founding team happy in a pivot. It was like the best thing we could do for our investors was try to get them their money. So we ran a process to talk with acquirers, and ultimately ended up meeting Retail Me Not, which was a public company out of Austin at the time, and they acquired us. I mean, for the same rationale that Facebook had, which was come help us build out our mobile products and mobile team, versus like, we're going to make Pickie and, acquire Pickie and blow it out. It wasn't like PayPal getting acquired by eBay, where all those founders, could go retire on a beach somewhere. It was more like a, small acquisition.
One of the big questions I have, and Phoenix, I have this question for you too, just as a professional. A thought that's been on my mind is the idea of like the hustle, right? That you in order to make your dreams come true, you got to sleep under your desk. You got to put in the time. You got to that's the American dream, right? Is like putting your nose to the grind and just like going. And I'm noticing a lot of people feeling burnt out by that idea. Like, some people are really successful and they just can do it. And then a lot of other people are just like, why is this not taking off? I'm exhausted. I'm sacrificing time with my family or my friends or whatever it is. And there's always sacrifice, but kind of what did that balance end up looking like for you? Did you feel like you were at that point of sleeping under your desk? If so, was that worth it? Like, what was that like?
So for me, Gina, I started early, and for me, I had children at an early age. So I had children at the age of 17. So for me, that grind was like immediate, and I didn't think about if I was not spending time with my family, because in my head, my family had to eat. Now, at the age of 17, I had individuals that's counting on me. So because they're counting on me, I have to grind. I have to do it. And then I start to realize like I'm raising standards. So by having children, you're raising standards. So I went from a high school dropout to like, okay, now I got to get a degree. I never thought in my life that I'd go to college, but the only reason why I went to college is because, okay, I can't tell my kids to go to college if I didn't go to college. So I'm creating that standard. then I wanted to keep raising that bar. So I became an officer, and then I got my master's, and I kept going. So that grind for me was like, hey, I can knock it out early so I could have that time later on, because I had children so early. I'm like, when I'm in my mid-30s now, I get to be home more, and that sacrifice was worth it. So for me, I believe grind hard until you get to the level that you need to get to, where you could reap the benefits later.
I agree with that. I feel like I was a super hard worker, obsessive, sleep under my desk until probably 30, I think. And then now have kind of reaped the benefits of that, because you learn more. I mean, I think you hustle for yourself. Like you hustle. The reason I put in more hours, even in, comparison when I was in investment banking, where people, sleep under their desk, that's kind of the norm. But I feel like I worked harder even then was because I wanted to get smarter. I wanted to be the best. And so putting in that extra hour made me an hour more confident, an hour smarter, an hour better on any topic, on any job that I've ever had. But then you get to a point where like you get older and you want more balance. And I don't know, I would say now I definitely feel like I'm more about working smart versus working hard. But I feel like because I put the hustle in for the last however many years, I have more to fall back on than, but it would be hard to work investment banker 24/7 hours now. I just don't think it'd be healthy either. Because I do think the more and more I've learned about the importance of sleep, the more and more I believe sleep is important.
Exactly. And Gina, I don't want to add one more thing, because this is a topic that's close to my heart. Again, one of my specialties and my passion is working with individuals from ages 14 to 24. So this message is for you. And Gina, thanks for bringing up this question. It's just a deep, powerful question. I know today's millennials think, hey, I'm going to live my life after college. I want to live my life. I have time. I could wait till I'm 30 to figure it out. And then at 30, I could start my life. I think what Sonia and I saying is our success and our path that we took was the opposite. We got out of college and we hit the ground running because we wanted to create a foundation. So when we are 30 and we're still young, if you look at us, and Gina, you as well, we all look beautiful and we don't look like we're our age. I know, put in those comments how you look. Exactly.
Well, I think we all look our age and we own it well.
Yes.
I mean, for yourself, I think I'm 29. I look like I'm 29.
29 is a great age. I like that.
No, but seriously, at this age, I'm still young enough to travel and enjoy traveling, enjoy my children, and able to go to games and be active. And I was able, if you wait till you're 30, like Sonia said, I don't think that's just healthy at our age to be putting in those type of hours like you're in your 20s. So again, I would say millennials, young adults, as you look into your future, grind now, set your foundation early so you can live the rest of your life at an early age, around mid-30s, early 40s, and have that work-life balance, because you are going to want a family when you get older. I know right now at 18, 19, 24, you're not looking at the future and be like, oh, I want a family of kids, but that day is going to come and you're going to need money and resources to do that. So grind hard now.
Yeah, Phoenix, you took the idea right out of my mind, like you tend to do, which is the foundation.
We're connected,
It's laying that foundation so that you at least have a place to start from and a place to build from. Because if you get to your 30s and you have just a lot of land, and you're like, okay, now you have to do the hard work of like digging all that up and putting in the foundation. And I feel like you don't have as many options if you don't have that, whether you do want a family, whether you do want to be like, just a career person for the next however many years and just, roll around like Scrooge McDuck in your pile of coins, like whatever you want to do, having those options. Exactly. That's my dream. I'm into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and making those connections too, like Sonia, like you've been doing, your entire life, and surrounding yourself with people who, continue to elevate you and support you. There's a quote that I heard, I don't remember who it's from. I think it's from like Dave, and I'm gonna butcher his last name, Dave Grohl from Nirvana, and several other bands. And he talks about how he's like, yeah, the moment that you become the most talented member of your band, quit your band and start a new band. Like keep surrounding yourself with more and more and more talent.
Yes.
I admire you two so much for putting in that time and putting in that grind and laying that foundation, because I mean, I think that's why you look so young, because you are in a place where you seem like you're very happy with being able to spend the time that you can now with your family and your friends and the connections and just the things that you've done to put in that time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, Sonia, you are Retail Me Not. You sold your company. They acquired your company. You're working with Retail Me Not. What's next? How was that experience?
Yeah, so Retail Me Not was a great experience because the CEO was the founder of the company, and he took the company public. Really smart, talented executive, and so it was interesting. A lot of times when small companies are acquired by bigger companies, there's organ rejection, like you culturally can't fit in because as a small startup, you're used to working really fast and getting things done really quickly, and big companies tend to move slower. But I feel like I learned so much at Retail Me Not because the team was really good.
Nice.
I love my direct boss, Jag, who is still a mentor and one of my people today. The CEO was amazing. He's still, I mean, I think I've talked to him twice in the last 2 weeks, just as I'm figuring out my next company.
Yeah.
But he's still an advisor and mentor to me. And at the year mark, I remember they had asked me in my review, like what I need, they wanted to keep me. And I asked for an hour a week with Cotter, the CEO, because I was like, I just want to learn from him. Like, I just want to sit with him for, I think I got 30 minutes every, and he was a public company CEO, super busy. I want to sit with him for 30 minutes and talk to him about like how he thinks about stuff going on in the company, like how he thought about taking a company public, just life. And it was so valuable. So good people. So I stayed at Retail Me Not almost 2 years, but I knew I was splitting time between New York and Austin at the time. My husband hadn't moved and we were getting ready to start a family. And so doing that long distance wasn't going to be feasible. And so we picked Chicago because I was like, okay, I'm going to start another company and we can do that anywhere. And we both have family in the Midwest. And so we're like, let's get back. We've never lived in Chicago as adults. Let's move back to where we're from. Chicago is the biggest city that we could go to.
Gotcha.
And so he was a consultant. He just changed his office. It was super easy for him. And then I started showing up in Chicago and meeting with venture capitalists, because one of my lessons learned the first time around is if you have to raise money from an investor, you want to build a relationship with them over a long period of time. I think there's a myth of Shark Tank that you show up, you pitch an investor for 2 minutes, and then you walk out with a check or a deal. That never happens. Like
that's TV, right? Yeah. That's for real. First of all, what's a venture capitalist for the viewers that don't know?
Yeah. So this is a great question because I didn't know. It's the venture capitalist is the made up job on the Wedding Singers. Like if you're, or what is it? Wedding Crashers.
Yeah. Wedding Crashers.
They call themselves venture capitalists. So for a while I was like, oh, it's not a made up job. No, it's a real job. It's a great job. So venture capitalists raise money from usually a bunch of wealthy individuals, and they'll have a fund and they will take that money and invest it in startups. And they usually will have specific themes. So what the way it works is you'll have some investors that focus on really early companies. I'll call it seed stage companies. Some investors that will focus on Series A companies, which is when you have seed is probably idea and team, but not much else. Maybe a little bit of revenue, but not a ton. Series A is like, okay, you've already got some seed funding under your belt. You probably got real revenues, a real team. And then Series B and C and the numbers go up. But typically at the seed stage, you're raising like $1 million or $2 million. At the Series A stage, you're raising $3 to $7 million, and it goes on and so forth. And so I started meeting with some of the bigger funds in Chicago to get to know them, because I was like, hey, I'm going to be moving here. I'm going to be starting a company, and it'd be great to get to know you. I'm going to have to ask you for money. Yeah. So in one of those conversations, I was introduced, and it was kind of crazy. So there was somebody in Austin who introduced me to a CEO in Chicago, who introduced me to a fund in Chicago that introduced me to Pritzker Group. Just being like, they liked my background, and they were like, you have a really interesting background. You should talk with Pritzker Group. Pritzker Group
just looking for investors, and you found a job.
Yeah, I mean, I basically met one of the senior associates on their team who was like, hey, we're actually hiring somebody right now. Have you ever thought about being a venture capitalist? And I was like, actually, I have not thought about that. I had always
Actually, I do not even know what that is, but
yeah,
okay.
I was like, because I had raised venture capital funding from my last company, but I didn't really know, like, I hadn't really thought about it. I had thought that, so what often will happen, or sometimes will happen, is once you've made a little bit of money with your company, you'll become what's called an angel investor. And as an angel investor, you're taking your own personal money and you're investing in small companies. And so I was like, I thought that was going to be my path to being an investor. I was like, oh yeah, of course. I think once you've made a little bit of money in tech, especially if you've been a founder, I remember the first people who believed in me and wrote me a check. And a lot of them were angel investors. I think we had half of our money from funds and half of our money from angel investors for the round of financing, the first round that we'd raised. And so I was like, I want to, that had a lot of appeal to me, but doing it as like an institution, as a job, I mean, it's kind of the best job imaginable because you're paid to give away money.
Exactly.
People.
Sign me up.
And so it's kind of a crazy job. I'd say there's like 3 different parts of the job. There's a third of your time you're spending sourcing deals. You're just trying to meet with as many founders as you possibly can so that you can be there when the next Facebook gets started or the next, Pinterest gets started. There's a third of your time that's spent making the decision. So it's like, okay, you see a deal, you'll look at 100 deals and maybe pick one to invest in. And so picking the right one is very important. And then it's kind of a process. And that's why I laugh about the Shark Tank pitches, because it's like, I'll meet with a founder, they'll pitch me, they'll send me over a deck, and then I'll usually ask for a bunch of information. Like, I want to see your financials, I want to see your customer cohort data, I want to see like all these things. And then I look at it and then I'll, do a bunch of research and then I make a decision. But that's like a 2 to 4 week process versus like 2 minutes in front of the camera. And then after you invest is where the like real work happens, if you're a good investor, I think, because then you're helping your portfolio companies to figure out how to do stuff. So I try to be on a text message basis with all my founders. Like, I want to know when things are going well. I want to know when things are going bad even more so I can try to help.
Wow, so you was a real live shark.
I was a shark.
That's amazing, Sonia. Wow.
Yeah, I was a shark, a mini shark, baby shark.
Shout out to the
baby
boss.
shark.
You are a boss, Sonia. You are a true boss. Your experiences, man, it's like exciting and overwhelming and back to excitement. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's an amazing job. I mean, I feel like I wish more people, I think if more people knew that this was a job option, I'm like, this is a great job.
Sound like it. Definitely. So
and really?
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just curious about, now that you you are in that position to make those decisions, I'm wondering how your experiences from high school to General Motors to, Harvard, how those experiences help inform the decisions that you make now in your position.
Great question.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this is why I actually think there is a ton of value in diverse partnerships. And so the industry, venture capital as a whole, is still very male and very white. That's the unfortunate truth. And there's a lot of articles that have been written about it, a lot of press on the state of the industry. And I think there's some really interesting organizations that are trying to help change the way it looks. Because what I've realized is, sitting as a venture capitalist, you're in a position of power because you're deciding who gets $500K, $1 million, who gets a chance to really go after their idea. And I know that because I've had all these different experiences in life, I think about things differently. And so, everything in I'm going to be like, one of the things that I realized that I did not realize when I was a founder is just how personal the decision to invest is. Like, I will see 10, like, for example, I'll see 10 beauty companies in a 2-week span. And I'll pick one of those founders if I think they're doing something special or something different. But the other thing that I've realized is you have to feel like you bond or have a connection with that person, because once you invest, it's like a marriage with no divorce. That person, you are connected to them until that company either fails or sells or goes public. And that can take 10 years on average. So for the
So-
successful
So the
company.
long game.
Yeah,
It's a long game and it's a hard game. And so you want to make sure you know who you're in the trenches with, but that's a personal decision. And so the people that I get excited about helping and working with probably look different than the people my husband would pick or any of my partners would have picked. So anyways, that's why I think it's so important to have diverse.
Yeah, because you have a connection because of those different backgrounds. So if you have a team that looks the same, you might miss out on that great opportunity because you don't have a connection or understanding of this culture or that market because you just don't identify with it.
100%.
Yeah, that's a great point, definitely. So Sonia, so you're a partner at this venture capitalist firm, making money, helping people make money. The pandemic happened.
Yeah.
What happened to your mindset at that time, having to be home with your children, your husband gone because he's probably still doing his thing, consulting, traveling, and where's your head at? Where's your mindset?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there were some changes happening at Pritzker at the fund that I was working at, and so I was already thinking about doing things differently, and I was basically making a decision on like, do I want to stay in investing? And then I always had in the back of my head, remember when I moved to Chicago, I was like, I thought I want to start a company. And so I think COVID was a great moment in time because it forced you to really sit back and think about what matters. What do I want my legacy to be? And for me personally, I honestly think that if COVID hadn't happened, I probably would be still doing venture capital as like a full-time professional. What I realized was I want to go back and build something, and I want to do something with kids, with my family. And so like my new company is products that will be for families and kids. But yeah, COVID changed the way I think about the world.
Is that company a secret still? Is it still in process, or have you?
It's still in process. I mean, I think I'll be, by the time this airs, the website might be in a little bit better shape. But yeah, I mean, I can talk about it. It's called Little Rituals Kids, and it's vitamins and herbal teas for kids and parents to have together. It's all about, I'd say the products are almost a vehicle for delivery of like the mission is creating things that parents and kids can do together.
Oh,
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah, where did that come? Where did that come from?
So it started off with tea. So I'm Indian. My family, we drink like 10 cups of tea a day. And my daughter, who's 4, always wanted to participate. And for us, tea is like this moment where, my mom and I will sit on the couch and connect and chat and bond. And I'd say like 90% of our life chats have happened over tea.
Oh, wow.
So of course she wanted to participate, but you don't want kids to have caffeine. And so we started to do herbal caffeine-free teas for her so she could participate. And it became
Nice.
my favorite part of the day where we could sit together and talk and chat. And then the vitamins kind of came out of that. I was thinking about like, what are the other things that she likes to do daily?
Yeah.
And that's like her other favorite thing is taking her daily vitamins.
Amazing.
The company itself, I'm like co-founding it with my daughter. So it's something my daughter and I are working on together.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that was like during COVID, even though we were together all the time, I was looking for things that we could do together that we could bond over, that would be enjoyable for her and enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
And, like I get excited about building things. And so I was like, well, maybe we'll build a website together. And so I was like trying to show her how to build a website. And in that process.
Cool. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and how old is your co-founder?
4. Yeah.
Wow. That
Wow.
is
Down.
so amazing.
That is amazing.
Created all these like amazing moments of connection, and that like yesterday we were taste testing teas on our counter, and like I'm showing her like, here's how you think about product development, all these things where I'm like, okay, what do I want to teach my daughter? I can only teach her a few things. I want to teach her how to build things for herself, because I feel it took me 25, 30 years to realize that I could build things for myself. And ever since I realized that, I have been so much happier versus going to work in somebody else's organization. And so I want to teach her to build things for herself, whether that's a company, whether that's, a service or any kind of career path. I just want her to choose her own adventure.
Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah, that is so powerful. As a former child, thank you for doing that. That is, that's so beautiful. I just want to say too, I mean, one of the things that I'm noticing throughout everything you're talking about too is the kindness that radiates from you. You know, you are super intelligent, you are super hardworking, but the relationships that you've built and the kindness that you've shown, and that you're taking that you've taken that into your career too, to say, how do I support other people? How do I invest in them? How do I invest in my daughter? How do I pick her up and, you know, all boats rise with the tide kind of thing, you know, like, how do I help people? How do I support people? And that kindness, I think, just shines through in everything that you're saying, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And so I just want to put that out there, that I really appreciate that about you.
Thanks. Well, like, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, I think I realize gratitude is a big part of, I think, what COVID has kind of brought home for me is, like, I'm so thankful. And I realized that I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for 500 people who have extended their hand or taken the time to believe in me. And so, got to pay it forward.
Definitely. I'm a true believer in that.
That's why, Phoenix, when you asked me, you told me your story about how you're paying it forward, and you said, would you be part of it? I was like, hell yeah. Like, this is my thing. I believe in this. I believe in you guys and what you're doing here. Like, this is it.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. And it's to bring different perspectives and to put people in front of the camera that could enlighten and pay it forward to our viewers so that they can go ahead and pay it forward to somebody else. And if we could continue to grab someone else's hand as we move forward, we'll be a greater country and a greater nation, especially with the climate and things that's going on today. So look at yourself, look in the mirror and see what can you change and see how can you help someone and put a footprint in this world. What's your legacy? That's what I think.
What's your legacy?
Yes, definitely.
That is such, I was going to say, that was a really good bow, I think, on this episode. What do you think, Phoenix?
No, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to leave it with one more thing. What I wanted to touch on, especially having a little girl. During this time, I also thought of different ways to like bond and keep my daughter active. So we did yoga and we did things of that nature. But you just took it on another level and putting on my coaching hat. This is what I heard. I heard you say, yes, I was making a bunch of money at this venture capitalist firm as a partner. However, I could be a millionaire and pass away and pass that along to my daughter, or I could teach my daughter how to become a billionaire, and with those skills that you're teaching her now. So that's what I heard. I don't know if that's what you said.
That is 100%. You said it better than I could have said it myself.
I mean, this is what we do, right, Gina?
It's again, you were really good at summarizing thoughts.
But yeah, I think that's a perfect bow. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing interview. Do you have anything you want to leave us with before you go? Any shout outs? You want to let them know how to reach you on social media, things of that nature?
Well, I think I'm going to send you guys links so you can link everything on YouTube. But no, just gratitude and thanks. You guys are awesome, and I love what you're doing here.
Thank you so much. And thank you again so much for being willing to talk with us and sharing your story. It was absolutely wonderful to get to know you. It was a pleasure.
Yes, definitely. Cheers to you, Sonia. Appreciate you.
Cheers.
I should be drinking tea.
Exactly. That was a good
next
one.
time.
So when we have you back on to talk about investments and startups, make sure that we all have some tea, or you could actually send us your product and we could all have
Oh my God.
When you launch, I am absolutely going to be one of the first people going to your website and purchasing. I love tea, and I know that my son would love that as well. So I am 100% for this and going to go into your website immediately.
Yes, definitely.
Guys, thanks. Great.
Thank you so much.
So no, hold on, Sonia. Before we leave, this is my favorite part of the show. Gina and I have our thing of the week. So my thing of the week is going to come from one of my favorite.
Well, so hold on. Before, so Sonia knows what we're doing here. Our thing of the week is just whatever thing has inspired us or has been kind of on our mind throughout the week, something that we can share that adds value to our viewers. So we try to bring books, podcasts, quotes, whatever it is, to try to kind of tide people over to the next week, something for them to check out before our next episode. Phoenix, please. Sorry, take it away.
No, don't be sorry. I appreciate you putting that out there. Sorry, I didn't explain that. So my thing of the week is from David Ramsey, my favorite financial guru. And I think it ties in with this episode and Sonia's experience. He says, look in the mirror. You have to, and tell yourself, I need to live like no one else in order to live like no one else. I say that again, in case you didn't catch it. You have to live like no one else in order to live like no one else. And what that means is you have to grind and put those things aside. So when your friends say, hey, let's go out, let's go to the club, or hey, let's go out and just hang out and be on social media all day. No, you have to do things that others is not doing. So when you're Sonia age, you could do things that no one's not doing. So while everybody else is working, she's building a company with her 4-year-old daughter. That's my thing of the week.
Love it. My thing of the week, and also Dave Ramsey, like being able to have an idea of your money and where it's going and being conscious of that is such good concepts, like just such good practice. So my thing of the week is a quote from Banksy that is, if you get tired, learn to rest, not quit. And I feel like that's super important, especially during COVID and people, you know, experiencing burnout and just working super, super hard, is that if you do experience through those times, it's just take a minute, take a rest. It's okay to rest, but don't give up what you're working on. Keep pushing through.
I agree. Nice one, Gina. Nice one. So everyone, that wraps up our show today. Again, Sonia, thanks for joining us. Everyone, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, like, tell a friend. Please, positive comments. We love the feedback, negative comments. Just don't watch the show. And yeah, hopefully we see y'all again next week.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.